If you're anything like me and you just had interest in a narrative game based in the future of Detroit, Michigan, you kind of had interest in Detroit Become Human. It has absolutely captivating storytelling, beautiful scenery, as well as some of the most difficult moral choices I've ever faced in any video game ever. With a story that could take up to approximately 16 hours of gameplay in one sitting, I decided I couldn't just enjoy the game and call it quits there. Something about this game just drew me in, and even though I made some of the worst decisions on my first playthrough, I just felt like it wasn't enough. I needed more. And having completed my first playthrough, I was not satisfied with the ending, so I made the decision that if I'm going to do multiple playthroughs anyway, I might as well try for the 100% of the flowchart. Later I will find out that this will be my undoing and the reason why I absolutely hated this game, but regardless, it was worth the shot. My first playthrough took place probably 2 years ago, and I did it all on stream, and it was devastating. It was a beautiful story. I loved it. Everything about it was phenomenal, but of course the ending was not the one I wanted. I wanted a better ending, so I went through and did the second playthrough, including all of the people at the end. I went out of my way to make sure everybody survived. Every single person. Notice I say person because I think every android in this game became human. They did exactly what the title said. They became human. And arguably more human than most of the humans in the game. Something about the way that the characters are designed and their choices leading to outcomes that you just really want to happen makes this game so captivating. Something about the moral dilemma that you're faced at every turn is absolutely invigorating, and whenever you do get the outcome that you want, you're just even more attached to the story and the characters in it. Now that's enough of me prattling on about the opinions that I have about the game. Let's get into the storyline that took place as I tried to earn this trophy. As I said before, the first playthrough I had, I just played it to enjoy the game, and enjoy it I did. I did not expect the outcome that I got. Some of my favorite characters died right at the very end whenever the story's about to wrap up, and the revolution that I wanted to happen took place. And again, as I said before, my first playthrough took place probably about 2 years ago, so I put the game down and completely forgot about it for ages. Recently, I came back to it just because I saw it in my list, and I was like, you know what? It's time. I looked into the trophies, what I needed to be able to finish it up, and saw that I actually didn't have too much left of it. It just took a couple more playthroughs, and these playthroughs would end up being the worst and most time consuming I've done so far. Because I had to make sure certain things happened earlier on in the chapters to create the options for later characters to survive. It was very tedious, and I had to follow a flowchart for some of the things that were very, very particular into how people lived. So the second playthrough I tried to do completely on stream. It took way longer than expected, so I just played through a majority of it off stream, did a couple of the choices I needed to do, and came back for the ending on stream to be able to enjoy with my audience. After the end of my second playthrough, some of the trophies regarding shooting the Chloes whenever you're talking to Kamsky, some other choices that I really didn't want to make whenever I did my first playthrough, as well as some I just could not live with after doing so. So I went through, loaded up the save, and saved none of the progress on those to where I could just do a fresh slate for my final playthrough, the one I dreaded the most. You're probably asking, Keegan, why is the last playthrough the worst one for you? Why is that the one that you wanted to avoid the most? And you'll learn now. This is going to be the playthrough that completely goes against all my moral choices. Completely destroys the way I feel about the game. This is the playthrough that makes me absolutely despise the type of gamer I am. But Keegan, it's just a game. You don't understand how painful this playthrough was. This was absolute hell. I wouldn't wish this against my worst enemies. I hated this playthrough. And you know what? If you want to feel clinically depressed after massacring the goodest boy, the main character of the game, several times, and not feel any remorse, go right the fuck ahead. You got me beat. You heard me right. Every time you can get Connor killed, you have to get Connor killed. You have to. That's a trophy. Why is that a trophy? Why is that something I have to do to complete the game? No clue. Hated it. I told you I hated it. Nevertheless, I had to complete the game in my own vision, and thus I did so. The first sacrifice being a sacrifice. During the hostage situation, you had to jump and save the girl while either falling with the android that had the girl hostage or by taking a shot. You go and meet Hank inside the bar. You try to find him to go and do the old investigative work, but he is currently drinking, and you have to be a dickhead to him because one of the deaths requires Hank to shoot you. So throughout the game, you have to be Hank's worst enemy and be an absolute prick to him, which I hated because I loved the development of the relationship between these two characters. In the playthrough, whenever they became friends, I fell in love with their relationship and their chemistry as partners, and now I had to destroy it just because I am selfish and want to platinum. Continuing on, after you catch the killer deviant from Carlos Ortiz's place, as Connor with the knowledge of an android, you go and interrogate the android, and when you probe its memory, it kinda goes crazy. It acts on suicide to try and end its own life, and in the end, if you intervene and try and help him from killing himself, he ends up turning the gun on you, thus ending his second cat life. For the sake of time, I wanted to shorten the game as much as possible, and that included taking out some of the other characters by means of bad QTEs. Later on, after Kara and Alice end up going to the hotel, you as Connor go to investigate the hotel. They see you, or the cops showing up, and they kind of run out to the highway. They jump in the highway, and they make it halfway. Then Connor follows and ends up getting struck by a car on the first half of the highway. Of course, afterwards, Kara and Alice are struck as well, thus ending their story and shortening the game by about 4 hours. And I didn't want to do it. Like, I tried everything for them, but I was ready to get the game done. This wasn't the choice I wanted to make, but it had to be done. And not too many missions into the future, after doing some of the stuff as Marcus, you end up with Connor again going to investigate a nest, a pigeonhole, a rock pigeonhole. Rupert the Deviant at the scene here runs, and you chase him down, and one of the options is to jump over a gap. You pretty much just fuck that jump, and that's how Connor dies his 4th time. I know what you're saying, like, this is halfway through the game, he's only died 4 times. The worst has had to have happened already, right? No, absolutely not. No. Some more missions with Marcus, and then you end up as Connor going to investigate the Eden Club, where some deviants may have been spotted in a altercation with a thirsty individual. Hank's only motivation? Booty. More poor decisions lead to Hank hating you more and more, as we need him to in the end. At this point, you pretty much call Hank out for being a bitch, and he ends up putting a bullet in your fucking head on the bridge. Timely death for a robot. Again, one of the many reasons I absolutely hate this playthrough, because it makes this relationship between Hank and Connor so cold and dense, and just nothing good comes from it. Missions with Marcus trying to spread the message of the deviants wanting to be free, and Connor gets there to check out the situation. See this one sketchy ass android in the corner looking at you all weird? That's not android activity, bro. You're not fooling anybody. After getting your heart ripped out the first time by Hank shooting you in the head, you get your heart ripped out again, and you just let yourself slowly die. Kamsky shoot an innocent android, let Marcus get absolutely slaughtered by the police, shortening his part of the story, obviously. And you let Connor get his ass beat whenever he's trying to figure out where Jericho is, in one of the least intense fights of the game against one of the most annoying characters in the game. Seriously, who the fuck likes this guy? You investigate Jericho, let Connor get shot by the police, because obviously he's a deviant. And at this point, you pretty much have lived out your life as a cat. Connor's on his last life. No matter how many versions of Connor die, this is the most painful. He doesn't even actually die in this one, but he dies internally. He has absolutely failed his mission, and he's failed the story. He's failed us. He's failed Hank. He's failed to be the hero that he needs to be, and it's absolutely devastating. In his one final goodbye to Hank, you see the final moments of Hank in the story, and this is why I hated it. This is what I dreaded the most. Not only did I really want their relationship and the story to be fruitful and develop in a way that was good for both of them, I wanted Hank to get out of his slump, his depression, but this playthrough forced you to put him deeper in that hole, and I can't. It's way too painful. At this point, you'll get the trophy for I'll Be Back, and also the platinum for the game if it was the last trophy you had, but at what cost? I completely regret trying for this platinum. I should have read ahead a little bit more before I got to this point, and I am deeply scarred. You're welcome. Thank you. Bye. I love you.